If you liked the video, feel free to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out. Thanks for watching. Thanks for stopping by. This video is a deep dive on the Adeptus Custodes Vertus Praetors. The Vertus Praetors have become a staple in many casual lists and many GT winning Adeptus Custodes lists. What makes the Vertus Praetors such a good unit? Let's take a look at the Vertus Praetor datasheet, then each of the 6 Adeptus Custodes detachments to find if they have any rules to buff up this unit. I will give the Vertus Praetors a score out of 10 for each detachment. Let's start with the Vertus Praetors datasheet. The Vertus Praetors have a movement of 12, toughness of 7, a 2-up save with a 4+ invulnerable, 5 wounds, 6 leadership, and an OC of 2. For the ranged weapons, we do have the Salvo Launcher, a 24-inch range, 1 attack, hitting on a 2+, strength 10, AP 3, damage D6 +1, or the Vertus Hurricane Bolter, 18-inch range, 3 attacks, hitting on a 2+, strength 4, AP 1, damage 2, with rapid fire 3. Both of these ranged weapons have the twin linked ability, so you can re-roll your wound roll. For the melee weapons, we have the Interceptor Lance, 5 attacks, hitting on a 2+, strength 7, AP 2, damage 2. It has the same profile as the Guardian Spear, except it has the Lance ability, so this has +1 to the wound roll when you've charged that turn. We can either have 2 or 3 Vertus Praetors in the unit. We can also join the unit with a Shield Captain on Dawneagle Jetbike to give the unit some more utility and more overall damage. For the abilities, we have Martial Kata, Turbo Boost, and Quicksilver Execution. Turbo Boost: each time this unit advances, do not make an advance roll. Instead, until the end of the phase, add 6 inches to the move characteristic of models in this unit. Quicksilver Execution: once per battle after this unit ends a normal or advanced move, you can select one unit excluding monsters or vehicles that it moved over during that move. Then roll 1d6 for each model in this unit, so it's the Vertus Praetors unit. For each 2+, the enemy suffers 2 mortal wounds. They also have access to the Martial Kata Adeptus Custodes army rule, so they can have sustain hits 1 or lethal hits in the fight phase. Now for some strengths and weaknesses for the Vertus Praetor. For the strengths, we have a movement of 12 inches with fly, very fast compared to our movement 6 infantry. Lance on their melee weapons combined with the Martial Kata for lethal hits or sustain hits 1, they can take out vehicles in the fight phase. Twin-linked Hurricane Bolters for anti-infantry shooting, or twin-linked Salvo Launchers gives them anti-tank shooting. Toughness 7 with 5 wounds with a 2-up save and a 4+ invulnerable. These are not easily killed with small arms fire or low AP, low damage melee attacks. For the weaknesses, to be honest, there's not a lot. They have the mounted keyword. That means they can't smash through terrain. They'll have to go around or up and over ruins. No assault or advance and charge. It will be normal moves 90% of the time for this unit. They used to be awful until the 2024 December update. Now they are awesome. We will take a deeper dive at the abilities. Turbo Boost, the auto 6-inch advance, will have these moving an 18-inch total movement. Remember, these will have to go around ruins and other tall terrain features. We also have no way to get assault or advance and charge in any of our 6 detachments. When we use Turbo Boost, we will not be able to shoot or charge in any of these detachments. I like to use this in turn 1 to get board position or in the later turns to score points. Draw behind enemy lines in turn 5 and have these 16 inches away from the enemy deployment. Pop Turbo Boost, move 18 inches, and claim some sweet secondary points. Not super useful, but something to keep in mind. The other ability, Quicksilver Execution, this is a very fun ability. The fact that it can be used in a normal or advanced role is the key to all the fun. Moved over does not always mean we have to fly over the entire unit. I have made a video on the channel covering this ability in more depth. Technically, we only need to fly over one model in the enemy unit. You clip one model, you can bomb the entire unit. The unit has the fly keyword, meaning we can move over a unit by 1 inch and then move back to end our movement somewhere else. With fly, we are able to pass over enemy units. Another important thing I've seen come up is the amount of dice rolled. The amount of dice rolled is the amount of Vertus Praetors in the unit, not the enemy unit. So if you have 3 Vertus Praetors in the unit, that's 6 mortal wounds. If you have a Shield Captain in the unit, that could be 8 total mortal wounds. We can't fly over a 20-man unit and roll 20 dice for a potential 40 mortal wounds. It's only the amount of models in the Vertus Praetor unit. The Shield Captain on Dawneagle has the ability Sweeping Advance. It can be either a normal or fallback move. If we do a normal move with Sweeping Advance, we can drop some mortal wound bombs if we fly over the enemy with Quicksilver Execution. We have a Shield Captain in a 3 model unit that will be 4d6 for a maximum of 8 mortal wounds, perfect for enemy lone op characters. The Vertus Praetors are another unit in the Custodes range that do not need much rule support. The datasheet has built-in rules and stats that make it a great choice in any list. A mix of speed, shooting, and melee, something most Custodes lack. We are usually slow with amazing melee. The salvo launchers can add some decent anti-tank to a list, even more so for those without Caladius grav tanks. I would take salvo launcher Vertus Praetors over a venerable Land Raider for Custodes anti-tank shooting. Next, we will take a look at every Custodes detachment to find out which ones buff up the Vertus Praetors the most. Our next detachment is the Shield Host detachment. The Shield Host detachment rule is Martial Mastery. At the start of the battle round, you can select one of the bullet points below. If you do so until the start of the next battle round, you could either have Adeptus Custodes models with the Martial Catal ability, their melee weapons gain the critical hits on 5 ability, or you could have Adeptus Custodes with the Martial Catal ability, melee weapons equipped by models gain +1 AP. Shield Host is in the top 2 detachments for the Vertus Praetors, Martial Mastery being a big part of it. Unlike a lot of our detachment rules, the Vertus Praetors are loving Martial Mastery. Critical hits on 5+, or AP3 on their melee weapons. Each model is 5 attacks, hitting on a 2+, Strength 7, AP2, Damage 2 with the Lance. The Lance ability gives the bearer +1 to the wound roll in the fight phase if the unit has charged that turn. The Vertus Praetors in the Shield Host detachment have anti-infantry melee and anti-tank melee. Lance combined with AP1 or critical hits on 5s can put some real hurt into monster and vehicle units. Salvo launchers or hurricane bolters to soften up their target before we charge in. There's even a stratagem to give our shooting sustain hits 1 or lethal hits. A good detachment for a great datasheet. If we do decide to attach a Shield Captain on Dawneagle to the unit, there is an enhancement that I do like to use, and that enhancement is Panoptic specs. While the bearer is leading a unit, ranged weapons equipped by models in that unit have the Ignores Cover ability. I really like this enhancement. For 5 points, this is one, if not the best enhancement we have in the Codex for shooting. Our infantry shooting and hurricane bolters are AP1. Cover is so easy to get in 10th, they might as well be AP0. Ignores Cover on twin-linked hurricane bolters or AP3 salvo launchers is a great addition to an already deadly unit. A unit of 3 bikes with a Shield Captain is 4 salvo launcher shots or 24 hurricane bolter shots as long as we're in rapid fire range, with Panoptic specs giving them the Ignores Cover ability. Let's take a look at some of the strong stratagems for the Shield Host for the Vertus Praetors. Our first stratagem is Archaeotech Munitions for 1 CP. In the shooting phase, this will give your ranged weapons either lethal hits or the sustain hits 1 ability. The great thing about this stratagem is besides Psychona units, it is not infantry locked. Even with the max unit, it is only going to be 4 salvo launcher shots. With sustain hits 1 or lethal hits, we would be lucky to roll 1/6. Not the best odds there. How about sustain hits 1 or lethal hits on 24 twin-linked hurricane bolter shots? All of a sudden, for 1 CP, it can be worth it when we need some extra damage from hurricane bolters. Possibly on the Panoptic specs unit to have Ignores Cover too. Depending on what you have equipped on these Vertus Praetors, Archaeotech Munitions for 1 CP can be a powerful stratagem. Next up is Arcane Genetic Alchemy for 1 CP. Any phase just after mortal wounds have been allocated to an Adeptus Custodes model from your army. Until the end of the phase, models in your unit have a 4+ fatal pain against mortal wounds. The best stratagem in all 6 detachments for mortal wounds protection. The fact that we can wait to see how many mortal wounds are taken before we use this stratagem is why it is so strong. The opponent uses the grenade stratagem and deals a maximum 6 mortal wounds. For 1 CP, we can have a 4+ fatal pain to those mortal wounds. Or the opponent only deals 2 mortal wounds, we usually want to save the CP and just take those mortal wounds on our unit. If we do have a Shield Captain attached, Arcane Genetic Alchemy is a good target for Strategic Mastery. A stratagem we want to make sure we have the CP for. especially for those mortal wound heavy matchups. As I always say, do not let your opponent bait this stratagem out of us with a few mortal wounds and then hit us with some real mortal wound bombs. Ask questions like which units do mortal wounds and how much potential wounds could those units do. Next up is multi-potentiality for 1 CP, our fallback, shoot and charge stratagem for this shield host detachment. Fallback, shoot and charge means a lot more in this detachment than a detachment like the Talons of the Emperor. The Jetbikes are already a unit who enjoy a good fallback and charge, only now we can add the detachment rule along with Lance when the unit charges. Fallback, shoot and charge is a very good stratagem on the Vertus Praetors. Another thing to remember is the Vertus Praetors have the fly keyword with a 12-inch movement. Our fallback looks much different than a Custodes infantry fallback. We can fall back over enemy models and land 12 inches away, shoot something different, and then charge. It's a lot harder to plan and counter for. We want to use all of the strengths of the Vertus Praetors, a 12-inch movement with fly being one of those strengths. I rank the Shield Host as my second best detachment in my detachment rankings. The Shield Host has many ways that can buff the overall strengths of the Vertus Praetors. Mortal wounds protection, a strong detachment rule, fallback, shoot and charge are all things the Vertus Praetors like in this detachment. The one thing the detachment is missing, and in fact all 6 detachments is missing, is a way to give the Vertus Praetors advance and charge or assault. I give the Vertus Praetors a strong 9.5 out of 10 in the Shield Host detachment. Not quite the perfect 10 out of 10, but close. There are a few dud stratagems in this detachment, but it hardly matters to the Vertus Praetors. The next detachment is Talons of the Emperor. The Talons of the Emperor detachment rule is Revered Companions. Psychona units from your army gain the following ability. While an Adeptus Custodes unit is within 6 inches of this unit, models in that unit have a 5+ Funeral Pain against psychic attacks and mortal wounds. All other Adeptus Custodes units from your army gain the following ability. Deadly Unity. While a Psychona unit is within 6 inches of this unit, each time a model in that Psychona unit makes an attack, add 1 to the hit roll. We will always like any rule that protects us from mortal wounds. The Vertus Praetors have the movement to make sure they are within the 6-inch aura. We do need to be within 6 inches of a Psychona unit. It is not as hard or a Psychona unit list filled as it may seem. Not the strongest detachment rule, but we have worse. Let's take a look at the stratagems that will buff up the Vertus Praetors and the Talons of the Emperor. Our first stratagem is Hunt as 1 for 1 CP. This is our fallback, shoot and charge stratagem. Fallback, shoot and charge is a great stratagem for the Vertus Praetors. First, they can regain their lance, so +1 to the wound if they fall back and charge. Second, they have some of the better shooting, if not the best shooting in our codex. Both ranged weapons are twin linked into the right targets for 1 CP. Fallback, shoot and charge can pick up multiple enemy units. Talent Pincer for 1 CP. In your opponent's movement phase, just after an enemy unit ends a normal, advance, or fallback move within 9 inches of one of our Adeptus Custodes units, we can make a normal move up to 6 inches. The best stratagem in the detachment for almost all of our units. It is even better on the Vertus Praetors. We could do the normal move block, increase the charge, move onto or off an objective. There are many things we can do with a reactive flat 6-inch normal move. If we look back at Quicksilver Execution, it is used after advance move or a normal move. Yes, that means we can use Talent Pincer to drop some mortal wounds on one enemy unit we may have passed over during that 6-inch normal move. I do like a shield captain with my Vertus Praetors in a Talons list. Having the ability to make Talent Pincer 0 CP every time we use it is quite strong. We can move 6 inches to make a charge impossible, only to move 12 inches and charge in our turn. There are a lot of things we can do with this stratagem, which we better learn since Talons of the Emperor does not have a lot of damage output. Now, how do the Vertus Praetors do overall in the Talons of the Emperor? Like a lot of our detachments, they do not get a lot of overall buffs from the rules. The datasheet is so good we can bring Vertus Praetors in the Talons list, making for a tough, fast, and hard-hitting unit. Talent Pincer for a reactive move, Hunt as 1 for a fallback, shoot and charge, with a possible 5+ Funeral Pain to Mortals protection from the detachment rule. It does give the Vertus Praetors much more protection than most of our other detachments. I give the Vertus Praetors an 8 out of 10 in the Talons of the Emperor detachment. Not the best detachment, but also not one of the worst detachments. Next we have Auric Champions. The Auric Champions detachment rule is assemblage of might. At the start of your command phase, select one unit from your opponent's army until the start of your next command phase. Each time a model in an Adeptus Custodes character unit from your army makes an attack that targets that enemy unit, add 1 to the wound roll. The Vertus Praetors do have a character that can join the unit. The shield captain on Dawneagle Jetbike buffs the unit with strategic mastery and sweeping advance, well worth the points increase to the unit. Their melee weapon has the lance ability, so +1 to the wound roll, into the assemblage of might target that will not be as strong in melee. The shooting though becomes much better with +1 to the wound. There is an enhancement we can take advantage of that would buff the unit, and that is Martial Philosopher on our shield captain. The bearer's unit is eligible to shoot and declare a charge in a turn in which it fell back, and once per battle, when the enemy unit ends a normal advance or fallback move within 9 inches of the bearer, if the bearer's unit is not within engagement range of 1 or more enemy units, it can make a normal move up to 6 inches. This is the enhancement I would choose on the shield captain, joined to the Vertus Praetors. An all-game fallback and shoot would be very useful. Any of our units who have good shooting and melee love fallback, shoot, and charge. In a once per game reactive normal move means we can use Quicksilver Execution to drop some mortal wound bombs on any unit we may have passed over during that normal move. The Vertus Praetors with the shield captain unit is a strong choice for the Auric Champions. The question is, how much does Auric Champions buff the actual Vertus Praetors? Not a lot. +1 to the wound into 1 enemy unit and 1 good enhancement. All the other rules only work on Custodes character models. I like to bring at least one of these units in my Auric list, more so because Auric is not a good detachment. I lean on the datasheets who do not need good rules like Vertus Praetors, Alars, Venatari, or the Wardens. I give the Vertus Praetors a 7 out of 10 in this detachment. Even though they do not have a lot of rule support, they are still great in the Auric Champions detachment. On to the Solar Spearhead detachment. The Solar Spearhead detachment rule, Auric Armor, the unit needs to be a vehicle or walker unit. The Vertus Praetor is a mounted unit. That means we will not have access to the detachment rule. There are some enhancements and stratagems that can buff up the Vertus Praetors in the Solar Spearhead detachment. There is an enhancement that we can put on a walker, Honored Fallen, which will give them a 6-inch aura of reroll hits of 1 for infantry and mounted units within 6 inches. Not an enhancement I would build a list around. Solar Spearhead lists are not known for hordes of infantry or jet bikes. There could be some play in a Dreadnoughts with maximum Vertus Praetors list. This enhancement could come into play. For the most part, we take other enhancements on our Dreadnought characters. On to the stratagems that we can use in this detachment. We have Emperor's Vengeance for 1 CP. This will give the unit a 4+ fight on death. It depends on the unit size for the stratagem. On a max 3 Vertus Praetors with a shield captain, it might be worth 1 CP or 0 CP if we use strategic mastery. A 4+ fight on death gives the Vertus Praetors some play into those fights first units. It might even give the opponent a second thought about charging into our jet bikes. A situational stratagem, not something we will use every turn. Punishment Inescapable for 1 CP in our shooting phase. This will allow the Vertus Praetors to ignore any and all modifiers to their ballistic skill or their hit roll, as well as give their ranged weapons the Ignores Cover ability. This can be a good option with the Hurricane Bolters or the Salvo Launchers. Into infantry units, Hurricane Bolters at AP 1 damage 2 Ignores Cover is very deadly. Using Punishment Inescapable on Salvo Launchers will depend on the target. A vehicle or monster unit that is toughness 10 or below, strength 10, AP 3 Ignores Cover is great. Against toughness 11 or higher, wounding on a 5+, this is probably a waste of CP. An option we may not use as much as we would like to in the Solar Spearhead. Solar Spearhead is a CP hungry detachment. If we only have 1 CP left, are we going to use Ignores Cover on Hurricane Bolters, or are we going to advance and charge a Telamon? Wrathful Advance for 1 CP, this will allow us a D3+3 pylon move. We could use this to get some extra models into combat, tag another unit, or even grab an objective. The problem with it is that it is a D3+3 movement, not that reliable. Very situational for this unit. I have not tested the maximum bikes and dreads build, My guess, since we have not seen a lot of these on the What's Winning Right Now series, it is not as strong as an all Dreadnoughts Solar Spearhead list. There are some rules to help buff the Vertus Praetors, enough to make me go out of my way to bring more? Not likely. Like the Auric and Null Maiden, there is not enough rules and support to push me to take more than maybe a unit of 2 or 2x2 for some utility. A great datasheet that does not have the rule support in Solar Spearhead to make it a truly great unit. I give the Vertus Praetors a 7.5 out of 10 in the Solar Spearhead detachment, still a good unit but not one of the better choices for this detachment. The next detachment is Lines of the Emperor. The Lines of the Emperor detachment rule against all odds. Each time an Adeptus Custodes unit from your army, excluding vehicles, makes an attack if there's no other friendly units within 6 inches of that unit, add 1 to the hit roll and add 1 to the wound roll. I think this is the best detachment rule we have for the Adeptus Custodes. It is the fact that it works in the shooting and the fight phase, giving one of the most powerful damage buffs in the game, plus 1 to the wound roll. A max unit of 3 Vertus Praetors and a Shield Captain is 24 rapid-fire Hurricane Bolter shots with twin-linked. The detachment rule adding plus 1 to the hit and wound buffs up the salvo launchers into toughness 10 and above targets. Not to mention the melee threat that these have, including the Captain, the unit has 21 attacks, hitting on a 2+, Strength 7, AP 2, Damage 2 with the Lance ability. For those wondering, the Vertus Praetors are a mounted unit, not a vehicle, so they do have access to this detachment rule. There are no enhancements that we can put on a Shield Captain that would buff the Vertus Praetors, so let's move on to the stratagems. Our first stratagem is Defiant to the Last. This will give the characters in the unit a 2+ fight on death, and the non-character models in the unit a 4+ fight on death in the fight phase. Whether we use Defiant to the Last or not will depend on the unit size. A 2-man Vertus Praetor unit we are using for utility, 1 CP for a 4+ fight on death is probably not worth the CP. A 3-man unit with a Shield Captain could do some real damage on the hit back. The Shield Captain could make it cost 0 CP as well as fight on death on a 2+. A strong yet situational stratagem. If anything, it stops units from being so willing to charge our Vertus Praetors. Next up is Maneuver and Fire for 1 CP, our fallback shoot and charge stratagem. Fallback shoot and charge is amazing on this unit. The Jetbike's 12-inch movement makes it a lot easier to get outside of the 6 inches of the friendly units to activate the detachment rule. With against all odds, plus 1 to the hit and wound is the best version of fallback, shoot and charge in all 6 detachments. Shield Host is a close second with a strong melee buff. The Lines of the Emperor with smart unit placement can fall back, shoot and charge with plus 1 to the wound roll in the shooting and fight phase. Peerless Warrior for 1 CP in the fight phase. This will give all the models melee weapons in the unit the precision ability. This stratagem is great or useless on most of our stronger melee units. A movement of 12 inches will allow our jetbikes to hunt those character units who really depend on characters to make their unit work. The entire Vertus Praetor unit melee weapons gain precision, goodbye enemy characters. It is not something we want to use all the time. It will be on those units who really rely on attached characters to buff the unit. Other than that, save the CP. Swift as the Eagle for 1 CP. This is our D6 reactive move after our unit has been shot in the shooting phase. We can do the usual, try to move out of line of sight, move block, or make a charge longer. Note that this is another normal move reactive stratagem. We have to be shot first, of course, to use Swift as an Eagle for 1 CP. The unreliable D6 move is a normal move. That means if we do move over an enemy unit during that D6 normal move, the Vertus Praetors can drop some Quicksilver execution and hand out some mortal wounds. Once again, that D6 move makes it unreliable. We have another very strong detachment for the Vertus Praetors. It does not have quite the same stratagem support as the Shield Host detachment, although Lines has the better detachment rule. Plus 1 to the hit and wound in the shooting and fight phase, fall back and charge, fight on death, react and move. Lines has some strong stratagems too. A Shield Captain attached to the Vertus Praetors is a whole different beast in the Lines of the Emperor. I give the Vertus Praetors an 8.5 out of 10 by themselves in the Lines of the Emperor. Attached to a Shield Captain on Dawneagle, we have our first 10 out of 10 unit. Resetting Sweeping Advance with Gilded Champion opens up so much power for these units. Next up is the Null Maiden Vigil. As most of our units are not Psychona, including the Vertus Praetors, I will make this quick. I think the Vertus Praetors would still be a great unit in a Null Maiden list. They could give the list some anti-tank shooting with the salvo launchers, add some fast-moving units who hit hard in melee. Toughness 7 with 5 wounds, 2-up save, and a 4+ invulnerable, they would be some of the toughest models in a mainly Psychona list. I give the Vertus Praetors a 7.5 out of 10, no rule support at all in the Null Maiden Vigil, but they add some real power and speed to a Null Maiden Vigil list. Here we have the final scores for all 6 detachments. Auric Champions a 7 out of 10, Null Maiden Vigil 7.5 out of 10, Solar Spearhead a 7.5 as well, Talons of the Emperor 8 out of 10, Shield Host 9.5 out of 10, and Lines of the Emperor 8.5 out of 10, or a 10 out of 10 unit if you do have the Shield Captain attached to the Vertus Praetors. We will finish the video with some final thoughts. This unit has seen a huge improvement from the Index/Codex version to the current version of the Vertus Praetors. They went from some of the most underused and most requested to fix units to one of our best units. They belong in the category of Custodes units that do not need a good detachment rule to stand out. When we do have good rules to support the jetbikes, they are really good. Shield Host and Lines of the Emperor have both won GTs with lists that were filled with Vertus Praetors. The Vertus Praetors are back. Play them in Shield Host or Lions of the Emperor for some extra jetbike goodness. Subscribe for battle reports, list videos, and other Warhammer 40K content. Channel members gain early access to videos and an invite to the channel Discord. Like always, thanks for watching, thanks for stopping by.